This stage of the 53 Chevy build is a lot about placement. If you're going to be a real team player, you got to be ready to play your role and position. Sometimes that means you have to be a real dummy.
There's an old saying that where you stand on a subject is where you sit. Well, restoration's a little different because in restoration, where we sit is the subject. What is this, first thing in the morning, you're already taking a break?
What's up, man?
Kind of, sort of, Dan.
Oh, you got the steering wheel?
Yeah, we're doing a little mock-up in here today. Yeah, we got a lot of headroom up
You got a lot of headroom.
We decided not to go with the original style type bench seats in the vehicle because we want to be able to put a console in there, maybe run the heater ducting through the console and things like that.
Choosing the proper seat height, that wasn't very hard at all. We actually just got a couple of pieces of 2x4s and placed them in the cab, making sure that it was level.
because then we'll measure the height.
It's a little better. Okay, my legs are just on a slight incline, and I'm 6 foot minus an inch and a half.
Since there was a slight raid, I guess you can say, in the floor of the cab, we used some corner wedges to shim up the pieces to get the blocks level. After we got them level, then we went ahead and took our measurement. We used 1.25 inch by 1/2 inch 16 gauge steel tubing to make the brackets. And we made a couple cross pieces using 3/4 16 gauge tubing.
Making the seat pedestal a frame will mean the space can allow for some extra storage down the road. A drawer or even an audio component can be hidden underneath to keep things stealth inside the cab.
TCI gave us a power rack and pinion that we'd be able to use. It's one of the options they have for their chassis. In order to install a power rack and pinion, what you need to do is go ahead and mock it up to where you can get basically a good center line for your toe. When we put the power rack in, we did notice that once we had centered the rack, that the threads and of course the tie rods weren't going to give us the adjustment we needed. Cut the rod to do it. That's where the short one bottoms out. The long ones don't bottom out that quick.
I think no matter what we do here, we should probably just get in touch with TCI and see if this is the right rack for this car, for this truck.
Yeah, it apparently looks a little too long or something.
Yeah, before we cut anything, because like you're saying, we could void a warranty, or it's not a good thing to recommend.
The next morning, we had our answer.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Good. So what's the deal? Are we tossing this out? We getting another one? Are we gonna fix this one?
No, actually, this is the correct one here. Everything is fine. Just got to make sure that this is centered on 1.5 turns. Remember, this is a 3-turn to lock.
Right.
So just make it centered and...
Okay. Just lop off an even amount on each side. Okay, cool.
The power rack, when we installed it, after centering it and looking at it, it appeared that we were about an inch off on the driver's side inner tie rod end. And as far as the outer tie rods, both of them, because of the size of the tie rods, it wouldn't allow us to adjust it enough, so we had to chop about an inch off each outer tie rod end to make it match.
The front of the truck narrows, which means modifications like this will be common around the front end.
The 53 truck came with a window and a vent window on each of the doors. We thought that it would have a nice custom touch to it if we changed it to a one-piece window. We installed windows off of a 47 to 50 application. We had to make some modifications by removing a small area at the top of the door, and we also made a template by using the instructions from the power window setup, and we just basically trace them out and drill them onto the door and then install the regulator.
Minor tweaks to standard stuff is going to become the norm for this project.
We used a ball socket on the firewall. It wasn't really meant to go in that particular position. We removed the ball socket. We took a saw and a die grinder and cut small amounts of metal out of the ball socket. That socket's actually intended to go lower on the firewall at a different angle. It's designed to go almost flat on the bottom of the firewall, where we're just going straight up and down with it.
Radical angles and non-typical uses present the biggest challenges for this team. They'll face plenty of them as they start to add components. Most aftermarket suppliers don't think about truck applications too much.
And this is good, you know, good height, lots of room for a console, but I'm not driving you anywhere until you put a seatbelt on.
Well, seatbelts weren't required in 1953, Dan.
Yeah, but is this a 53?
Yes.